Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm reading I'll Go Anywhere for You. It's a 911 fic, and I really love it. So I only have one chapter right now, but oh, I love this fic so much. Actually, kill me. Anyways, so yeah. It's a buddy fic. I love Buddy so much, if you couldn't tell. Also, I realized that in my video for the rookie fic, the Chenford one, I forgot to read the summary, I'm pretty sure. So whenever I get the second part of that, like when I ever get the second chapter written, I'll read the summary in that chapter. But anyways, I need to stop talking and read this chapter, because you guys deserve to enjoy this fic just as much as I do. So, yeah. Okay. So, again, this is I'll Go Anywhere for You. Yeah, I'm going to read the summary, and then I'll read the chapter. Summary. Buck was tired after the first 12 hours of their shift. He had been about to go down to the bunks when his phone started ringing. The hospital was calling, but not a hospital in Los Angeles. There was a hospital in El Paso. Eddie was in an accident. Buck was his emergency contact. So, of course, Buck did the most rational thing he could think of. He dropped everything and booked a flight to El Paso so he could take care of his best friend and his son. Chapter 1. Flying to You. Buck was tired. There were still 12 hours left of their shift. It was 7 p.m. and Buck was thinking about going down to the bunks. Well, that was until his phone started ringing. "Who's calling you now?" Hen asked as she looked up from her game of cards with Chimney. "I don't know," Buck responded, reaching for his phone that was on the coffee table from where he was on the couch. He looked at the name on the screen and scrunched his nose in confusion. "Del Sol Medical Center," he said aloud. "Where the hell is that?" He glanced at the rest of the crew, who just shrugged. Hen seemed to be looking it up, so Buck just answered. "Hello?" "Hello, is this Evan Buckley?" a woman on the other line asked. She sounded professional, with a tint of grief in her voice. "Yes, this is he. How can I help you?" Buck asked, more confused at how the woman knew his name than anything else. Right after he answered her, he heard the screech of Hen's chair against the floor as she made her way over to him. "I'm Anne. I work at Del Sol Medical Center here in El Paso, Texas," the woman said, right as Hen showed Buck her phone. Buck's mouth went dry. Why was he getting a call from a hospital in El Paso? "I'm calling about Edmundo Diaz." What about him?" Buck asked, sitting up. He was worrying now. "What happened to Eddie? He didn't die, did he?" "Mr. Diaz was involved in a car accident. I shouldn't explain his injuries over the phone. It would be better to explain in person. But he was pretty injured," the woman explained, and Buck's heart dropped into his stomach. While he was happy Eddie wasn't dead, he was still concerned for his friend. "Why are you calling me?" Buck asked. He was still confused about that part. He wasn't family, so he didn't get why he was being called. You're on file as his emergency contact," the woman said. That made Buck really happy. It was a small thing, but it made him happy nonetheless. "Are you not supposed to be?" No, it's just he never told me that he put me down as his emergency contact." Is he conscious?" Buck asked, hoping the answer was yes. "Yes, he is. Do you think you'll be able to come in to visit him?" the woman asked. Give me one moment," Buck said, taking his phone away from his ear to mute himself, after the woman had replied with an, "Of course." Buck quickly started searching up flights out of LAX and to El Paso. "Buck, what are you doing?" Hen asked, still leaning over the back of the couch. I'm looking for a flight to El Paso, Buck explained, casually, as he found one that was in 2 hours. He booked it. I'm leaving in 2 hours. Whoa, 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 Chimney said, standing up as he put up both of his hands. Why are you going to El Paso? Eddie's in the hospital. They just called me to let me know I can visit him, Buck said, standing up. Bobby, I need to take PTO. You never leave, so you have plenty, kid. Go home, pack, and we'll talk about how long you're going to be out there, once you've got a minute to breathe, Bobby said, smiling fondly. Thank you, Buck said, putting his hands together before rushing over and hugging Bobby. Bobby hugged back, just saying, no problem, kid. I'll let you guys know how he's doing once I know, Buck said, as he made his way down the stairs from the loft. Once he changed, he remembered the call and cursed under his breath. He quickly unmutes himself and explains. Sorry about that. I just had to let my captain know I needed to leave. No problem, Anne said, a smile in her voice. Do you have any idea when you'll get here? Well, I don't live in El Paso, so I have to catch a flight. So if I had to guess, I'd say I'll fly in around 11. Will I still be able to visit him? Buck asked, hoping he'd hear a yes. Of course, and if you want, we can put an extra cot in his room so you can stay the night with him, Anne said. Oh my god, thank you so much, but, can you not tell him I'm flying in? If he knows, he'll probably spam my phone telling me I don't have to, Buck said, as he started driving home to pack. Sure. I'll have his doctor tell him a family member is going to be spending the night with him if he asks about the cot, Anne said, chuckling slightly. Thank you so much, Anne, Buck said, sighing in relief. Of course. We'll see you in a few hours, Mr. Buckley, Anne said before hanging up. Now, Buck had to keep himself together long enough to get packed, drive to the airport, go through security, and get on the plane. Mind you, he was going to have to do this while trying not to spiral about what happened to Eddie and how he was feeling. Buck only realized that he should probably tell Maddie he was going to El Paso when he pulled into the driveway of Eddie's house. So while he packed, he called Maddie and explained everything. She had ended the call by telling him not to forget certain things like his wallet and telling him she was going to miss him. Buck made sure he had everything before getting back in his car and driving to the airport. He'd only taken an hour to pack, but he knew how busy LAX could get, so he hoped he hadn't taken too long. The line was pretty short when he got there, but it was long enough that he was getting bored waiting, so Buck decided to call Christopher. He picked up on the second ring. Hey, Buck, Christopher said, a smile in his voice. Hey, Chris, Buck said, smiling at the excitement he'd heard in the boy's voice. He'll never get over the fact that Chris is always excited to talk to him. How are you doing there in El Paso? I'm doing good, Chris said, happily. How are things in LA? Things are good here. We haven't had anything too crazy happen, so don't worry. You're not missing out on anything, Buck reassured as he moved up in line. There were 2 more people in front of him. How's it having your dad in Texas, huh? It's been good. Dad and I have been playing video games together recently while we catch up. It's been pretty fun, Chris explained, and Buck could just imagine the grin on his face. Well, do you think you can keep a secret from your dad? Buck asked, chuckling slightly. Sure. What is it? Chris asked excitedly. I'm coming to visit you guys in El Paso, Buck said, smiling at the excited cheer from Chris. Hey, quiet, so your dad doesn't hear, okay? Okay, but Dad's still out working, Buck, Chris said, giggling. Well, I don't know these things, Buck said as he started to check in his bag. I'm at the airport right now, and your dad hasn't called me to update me about his day. Okay, well, I'm excited that you're coming to El Paso. I've missed you, Chris said, a melancholy tone to his voice. I've missed you too, buddy, Buck said, smiling as he finished checking in his bag. Dad's also missed you, Chris added, making Buck's heart stutter. He's been talking about how much he misses going on calls and watching you pull crazy stunts. I think he really misses California. I know I do. Well, California misses you guys too, Buck said, making Chris giggle. No, but seriously, Chris, if you want to come home, there's nothing stopping you. Just ask your dad. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to. I know, but I also don't want to leave my friends here, Chris said, sounding torn. You know, there are these things called phones. You should try using one sometime, Buck joked, causing Chris to giggle. He loved making the boy laugh. But honestly, you could probably visit El Paso during the holidays if you asked your dad. He's willing to do whatever it takes to be there for you. Just tell him what you need, and he'll be there with it." "Thanks, Buck," Chris said, grateful. "No problem, Superman. I have to go now, 'cause I'm about to go through security, but I'll see you in a few hours, okay?" "Okay, bye, Buck." The call ended, and Buck went through security with a dopey smile on his face from the call. Buck got to his gate with 5 minutes until boarding. He quickly sent a text to Chris telling him that he was about to get on the plane. He smiled when Chris sent him a gif of a man jumping in circles, clapping and whooping. He hearted the gif before putting the phone away. While on the plane, Buck thought about what shape Eddie might be in when he arrived. Would he be so beat up that it was hard to recognize him? Would his arms be in slings? Would he be wrapped in so many bandages that it was hard to tell what was injured? Buck didn't know. When the plane landed, Buck messaged the group chat with Chimney, Hen, Bobby, Ravi, and Athena that he had landed. After he got his bag, he ordered a ride, which felt weird since Eddie was an Uber and Buck was going to be seeing him in the hospital soon. Instead of going straight to the hospital, Buck went to Eddie's place. Eddie had sent him a key to the place as a joke, "In case you decide to pull a Buck and surprise me with a visit," is what he'd said. Buck smiled at the memory as he unlocked the door. "Chris?" Buck called, smiling at the response he got. "Buck!" Christopher yelled as he jumped up from the couch and tackled Buck in a tight hug. Buck dropped his bags and hugged Chris tight against his chest. "Hey, buddy," Buck said, smiling. "Have you eaten?" Buck asked, stroking the boy's hair. "I've had some chips, but I was waiting for Dad to get home," Chris said, smiling at Buck. "So happy you're here." "Me too, bud," Buck said, closing the door behind him. "Come on, let's eat." The two ate some frozen pizza and caught up. "I wonder where my dad is," Chris said eventually. "He's never out this late." "What do you say we go see him, huh?" Buck suggested, and Chris tilted his head in confusion. "You know where he is?" he asked, squinting slightly. "Look, Superman," Buck started, leaning against the counter. Something happened when your dad was working. He got injured." "But he's not a firefighter anymore," Chris cried, surprised. "How did he get hurt?" "Idiot drivers on the road. He was in a car accident, Chris," Buck explained, pulling the boy into a hug. "Is he okay?" Chris asked in a quiet voice that broke Buck's heart. "He will be," Buck said, instead of a definitive yes. "Let's go see him. He hasn't had any visitors other than doctors." "We should bring him some things," Chris suggested, and Buck nodded. They found a few things around the house to bring Eddie. Before they left, they decided they'd go to the gift shop at the hospital and bring Eddie some things from there, too. Buck kept an arm around Chris's shoulder the whole time they were waiting in line at the desk. When it was finally their turn, Buck said, "Hi, I'm Evan Buckley. I got a call about Edmundo Diaz." "Ah, yes. Hello, Mr. Buckley. We spoke on the phone," Anne said, and Buck smiled at her. "Give me a moment. I'll get Mr. Diaz's doctor to take you to him and explain his injuries." "Thank you," Buck said, squeezing Chris's shoulder as they stepped to the side. It only took a few minutes before a doctor came into the waiting area and said, "Evan Buckley?" Buck raised his free hand and approached the doctor. "You're here for Edmundo Diaz, yes?" the man asked, looking down at the chart in his hands as they walked down a hallway. "Yes," Buck said, short and concise. "Well, Mr. Diaz sustained quite a few injuries in the crash," the doctor commented. "He broke his left wrist along with a few ribs. He also had some part of the car penetrate his left side. It didn't damage anything, but he lost quite a bit of blood from that. He also hit his head during the crash, causing an open wound on his left temple. But don't worry, it'll heal just fine. He also sustained a concussion, but that was to be suspected in such a crash." The doctor stopped outside of a room with a closed door. "Any questions?" he asked. "Yeah, Buck started. Do you know what caused the crash?" "Ah, yes, there was a fluctuation in a four-way stoplight, and all of the lights turned green. As you can guess, that could only lead to a disaster. There are workers working on the lights right now, but Mr. Diaz was just in the wrong place at the wrong time." Buck nodded. "Thank you," he said, smiling at the doctor. "Of course. Mr. Diaz is awake, and the cot has been set up in there for you, the doctor explained, putting a hand on Buck's shoulder. Just let me know if you need anything, Mr. Buckley. Buck nodded as the doctor walked away. Let's go see your dad, huh? Buck asked Chris, who just nodded. The boy looked worried, but Buck was too. He knocked on the door 3 times. Come in, a familiar voice called from inside. Chris opened the door and rushed to his dad's side. Christopher? Eddie asked, surprised as he slowly wrapped his arms around his son and buried his head in the boy's hair. Dad, I was so worried about you, Chris said, sniffling. Buck just leaned against the wall next to the door so that Chris and Eddie could have their father-son reunion. Hey, I'm okay, Eddie soothed, stroking Christopher's hair. How'd you even know I was here? Eddie Sorry. Eddie asked, pulling away from Chris slightly. Buck told me, Chris said, gesturing over his shoulder to where Buck was standing. He just smiled as Eddie looked at him like he wasn't real. Buck approached Eddie's bed slowly. What? Oh, shit, sorry. Wrong voice. What, Chris gets all the love and I get nothing? I'm hurt, Eddie. Buck joked, putting a hand to his heart as he threw his other arm around Christopher's shoulders. How did you, Eddie stuttered, looking so lost. It was adorable. Buck chuckled. I'm your emergency contact. They called me, I got on a plane, and now I'm here, he said, gesturing around the room. Eddie just blinked at him. Buck kept the smile on his face. He turned to Chris as he pulled his wallet out to give Chris some money. Listen, Superman, I want you to go find something at the gift shop, and then I want you to go get us some stuff from the vending machine. You think you can do that? Chris nodded resolutely. Superman is on it, Chris said, taking the money from Buck before leaving the room. Buck smiled at the closed door before grabbing a chair and pulling it up next to Eddie's bed. How are you feeling? Buck asked, leaning back in the chair as he pushed back his curls. Better than earlier, Eddie said, shrugging. Did you really jump on a plane as soon as you heard I was injured? Eddie sounded like what Buck did was endearing, but Buck didn't pick up on that because of how tired he was. Yes. I told Bobby I needed to take PTO, left the firehouse, packed, and went to the airport, Buck said, smiling lazily. I'm glad you're okay. There was a moment of silence before Eddie said, Get over here. I want to give you a hug. Buck chuckled at the pout on Eddie's face as he complied to the order. Eddie's hug wasn't tight as much as it was reassuring. Thank you, Eddie whispered in Buck's ear before letting go. Of course, Buck said, because he didn't have to ask any questions to know exactly why Eddie was thanking him. Buck was there for Eddie and Chris. He'd take care of them no matter what. Eddie was thanking him for being there, for being a constant that Eddie could count on. Buck would go anywhere for Eddie, even if it meant dropping everything to do so. This was only proven by the situation that Eddie found himself in. I hope you don't mind me crashing at your place while I'm here, Buck said, smiling as Eddie chuckled. I wouldn't let you stay anywhere else, he said, a huge grin on his face. Buck missed this. He missed Eddie. He was glad to have him back. Okay, and that is the end of this chapter. Yeah. Oh, I love this fic so much. Okay, so, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, have a great day, night, morning, evening, wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!